Rocket broadcast. This is a Red Rocket broadcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the left side.
This is a Red Rocket broadcast. This is a Red Rocket broadcast. broadcast. This is a Red Rocket broadcast. This is a Red Rocket broadcast. This is a Red Rocket broadcast. Rocket broadcast. This is a Red Rocket broadcast. This is a Red Rocket broadcast. This is a Red Rocket broadcast. Broadcast. This is a Red Rocket Broadcast.
Ceremonies today. I'm also involved in the committee. I'm the chairman. Matter of fact, we've been doing this Energy Summit for about 8 years. I've been with them for about 4. We got a really great ceremony going for you today, kind of like every other year, except unfortunately we have to do it virtual this year. So a lot of good information to bring you. First off, I want to thank our mayor, Dale Janway. What a great mayor. He does a lot for this community, and we are so fortunate to have him. All right, we got a lot planned today, so we want to go ahead and get started with. We got a bunch of fine young people here from the Boy Scouts, and they're going to be presenting the colors.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, wasn't that great to hear? Those young people there did a great job. Thank you, Boy Scouts, very, very much. Now, I want to thank all our sponsors from our 2019 summit. They're responsible for us being able to have this virtual summit next year, and a lot of them have already committed to 2021, where we hopefully can have it in person again. So we're hoping to that. Anyway, we got another special presentation today. This guy is incredible. I understand he's quite the artist too. And Minister David Prell from the Blodgett Street Baptist Church is always willing to help us out. And Dave, first is what I got. You know, and Dave also is quite the artist too. He made some of the gifts that we're giving our speakers today, some bolos and some other woodworking pins. He's quite a talented individual, plus an inspirational speaker. So please help us welcome Dave Prell and give our invocation.
Thank you so much. If you'd bow as we pray together this morning. From the Word of God, indeed the Lord will comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places, and her wilderness he will make like Eden, her desert like a garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness will be found in her, thanksgiving and a sound of melody. Our Father, we're grateful to have this opportunity once again to consider all of your wondrous glories. Father, we thank you for this beautiful desert that we live in that has been transformed into a garden because of the many resources that you've placed within her. We thank you, Lord, for these men and women who serve this community so well in the energy field. And we thank you, Lord, for the resources that you've placed here and given us opportunity to use and to utilize, Father, to enhance this community in so very many ways. Father, we thank you for the Permian Basin. We thank you, Lord, for giving this area a place that we could see our families grow. And Father, we're just so eternally grateful that we're able to build relationships here. We're able to see our families that are motivated to get involved in so many community activities, Father, to grow and mature and to invest their lives in this community. Thank you, Father, for this mayor, for his insight, Father, to lead out in this area, Father, to encourage companies to be involved in the Permian Basin. Father, to encourage the kind of work in the Delaware that will help us all, Father, to be prosperous. We thank you, Lord, for our community leaders. We thank you, Father, for this opportunity we have once again to just experience all the many facets of the economic growth that we can experience here. We pray, God, as Isaiah wrote, that you might turn this desert place into a garden, that you might turn the wilderness into a place filled with prosperity. We ask you to look graciously down upon us. We ask you, Father, to minister your love and your mercy to us. We ask you, dear God, to continue to make this among the greatest places in the United States to live and to work. We thank you, Father, in the name of Christ our Savior and Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend David Prell, for that inspirational message. Such a great job. And again, David's willing to help us any chance we get at anything we do here in the community. We got another special presentation right now. I love this lady. I can listen to her sing all the time, and she does a great job with our national anthem. Please welcome Vonsell King.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I don't know about you all. I could listen to her sing all day long, and she always helps us out here in the community any chance that she can. Thank you, Vonsell. Our next speaker, very honored to introduce, not only is a personal friend of mine, but a great mayor for this community. He has led and been a leader during all this tough time we're having through this crisis. Always is balanced and fair in his dealings, and we couldn't ask for a better mayor. Please help me welcome Carlsbad, New Mexico's mayor, Mr. Dale Janway.
Good morning. Thank you to everyone for joining us at this year's 8th annual Carlsbad Mayor's Energy Summit, which, like a lot in our lives, has gone virtual this year. Special thanks again to Orrin Means, who first suggested the summit as a way to help planning for the future. This has turned into the premier energy event in the Southwest, and Carlsbad is at the epicenter of so much that is happening in the energy industry, and there's so much that will be happening. And that's why we felt like it was extremely important that we put together a very informative event, despite everything else. We appreciate you joining us today, but we also look forward to being able to get together in person when we are able. As with everyone else, our energy companies have been through a lot recently. Despite these unprecedented challenges, and unprecedented is a word that we've heard a lot this year, our partners in the energy industry have stepped forward to help this and other communities. We look forward to hearing from XTO Energy Delaware Basin Production Manager Rick Cannon today, Occidental Petroleum's Babatunde Cole, and Vicki Hollab will be joining us online. While we could not have all of our energy companies here today, we did invite them to share with us a little bit about what they've been doing in the community. We also caught up with a few of our local service companies, and we look forward to watching these updates throughout today's event. We also have some words of wisdom from a couple of individuals that have seen the up and downs of the oil industry in the past. New Mexico Governor Gary Carruthers has been a part of the summit in the past, and he joins us from Las Cruces. We know he worked closely with our good friend, Dr. Jim Peach, who also has been an essential part of this summit for the past 8 years, and we look forward to getting him back to Carlsbad. Billy Munn with MAC Energy Corporation will be joining us today. Munn's discussion will be a frank one, and we're certain it will be very insightful. Finally, thank you to Tim Parker with the New Mexico DOT and Eddy County Manager Alan Davis for both providing us with updates on our roads. There's some important work going on that will serve our area and industry for a long time. Thanks again to the Boy Scouts, Fonseal King, what a voice, and the Reverend David Prell for helping us get started today. We also have great attendance online today, including former Governor Susana Martinez. Governor Martinez has attended and participated in most of our energy summits. Quite a bit has changed this year, but what's most important hasn't changed at all. The Delaware Basin is still sitting on the best oil and gas resource in the world. The spirit of this community and its residents is as strong as ever. We believe Carlsbad is already in the process of emerging stronger than ever, and we look forward to working with you to help do so. Thanks again to the many sponsors for our 2019 summit and who made this year's virtual event possible. Thanks as well to Mike Anaporto and the Carlsbad Community Foundation and the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce for all of their assistance. And to our Spirit of the Oilfield Selection Committee of Aaron Emmert, Janelle Whitlock, and Desiree Kicker. Our committee chairman and master of ceremonies, Danny Fletcher, has done an excellent job of putting this together, as has our production company, Red Rocket. Shelley Blair has also been a great help. Special thanks to our event coordinator, Kyle Marksteiner. Thanks as well to our great city team, Cheyenne Mathola, Renee Madrid, Wanda Cadell, Sarah Anaya, Kathy Morrison, Elba Alonso, Lupe Ornelas, and everyone else who makes all of our events so special. We look forward to a great energy event, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Janway. Appreciate that. Now, we're going to move to our middle portion of our program. But before we get started, I know the mayor already thanked some of these people, but Damian Capello at Red Rocket Video handling our production today. This is our first time, like a lot of people, actually doing it live virtual. And he's been working hard all week, and I think he's doing a great job. And all the city staff, I want to particularly thank Kyle, Mark Steiner, and Cheyenne with the city, Renee, a lot of people who have worked really hard to help put this on, and my committee here at the Energy Summit. Thank you for all your help. But before we get to our first speaker, we want to let you hear from a few of our community partners. We went out and talked to them to find out what's been happening with them during this crisis, this pandemic, and what are they doing, not only at their company, but for the community too. So let's find out what they're up to. So let's watch a couple of these videos, and then we'll start our first speaker.
At the ConocoPhillips field office in Loving, ConocoPhillips employees Sean Robinson and Keith Bailey present Linda Dodd, Executive Director of the United Way of Eddy County, with a donation for the United Way's COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund. ConocoPhillips donated $40,000 to the United Way of Eddy County this year. ConocoPhillips employees also volunteered in August for a project to clean up Derrick Road through the City of Carlsbad's beautification program. Together, they picked up over 100 bags of trash.
Devon has a huge impact on our community. They're involved in everything from the schools to the emergency services to our dispatch. They're just always giving back and always involved.
We live here, and we want to make sure we're doing the right thing in our own backyards. That makes a world of difference when you work for a company that supports that.
Devon's very community focused. You see them at the football games, you see them giving back to nonprofits. It's not just us, they are very involved in the area.
There are hundreds of families that not only work in these communities, but live in these communities. It's very important for us to engage in those communities and to be a good neighbor in those communities in that sense.
When we need assistance in the community, Devon will stand up. They're concerned about the people.
We're their people. You have to take care of your own people, and they do a great job.
This is our community. These are our neighbors, and that's why we care.
Pictured at the ConocoPhillips field office in Loving.
Bernadette and everybody out there, what a great job. Very big supporters of our community here in Carlsbad. I believe we have a ConocoPhillips video up next, and we'll roll that one too.
Janway for asking me to participate in this year's annual Energy Summit. I've always enjoyed visiting Carlsbad, but due to the pandemic, it seems all meetings are virtual. Zoom, WebEx, film. Not as much fun as being there, but still a pleasure to be with you, and hope sometime in the near future I can join you again. I think we all know the current situation in our country and around the world is a little disheartening. Mostly the pandemic. The pandemic has got us isolated, limited travel. But in addition to that, we have social unrest, disorder in the streets. Economy's not functioning very well, nowhere near normal. Unemployment is particularly worrisome. Nearly every industry is suffering. We'll probably lose many small businesses and some larger ones before we get to what they call the new normal. We are experiencing and will continue to have one of the most negative national political campaigns in my lifetime. And I'm 81 years old, and that's a long lifetime. But I'm pretty much discouraged by that as well. So the isolation, the negativity, and general uncertainty are just wearing us out. Now, I want to tell you, I'm a devotee of country and Western music. Everything that is worth saying has been written in country and Western music. Our current situation today sounds a lot like the words in a song by Anne Murray in 1983. In her music, she lamented everything that was going on in the world at that time, bad things that were going on. She sang about the poor economy, international strife, crime, riots, politics. But in this song, she yearns for a better world, a better place. And she sings. She wants to be where everybody loves everybody in the good old USA. And then she sings, we sure could use a little good news today. Mayor and friends, When it comes to energy, I believe we have a little good news today. When I served as Assistant Secretary of the Interior in the first 4 years of President Reagan's term, which I like to refer to as the good old days, our goal was to gain as a country energy independence. It was not easy in those days to expand public land leasing, deal with environmental issues in a prudent and safe fashion. I might, as a side, say I had a religious experience for me as Assistant Secretary when I came to Carlsbad to negotiate between the potash industry and the oil and gas industry about drilling and potash deposits. But we were able to offer the private sector a clear path to solving one of the most pressing national security problems of my time, energy independence. While I know there's reason to import energy resources when the market dictates, we are by most accounts energy independent in the U.S. and will be for many decades. Now, according to my good friend, your good friend, and New Mexico's top authority on the energy industry, Dr. Jim Peach, the Permian Basin and the Delaware Subbasin has been and will continue to be a major contributor to meeting this national security milestone. Between 2010 and 2018, New Mexico oil production increased from 65.6 million barrels to 248.9 million barrels, an increase of 279%. In the same period, proven reserves increased from 823 million barrels to 3.2 million, an increase of 293%. And for several years, 96% of the oil produced in New Mexico was from Eddy and Lee counties. A recent USGS study indicates there are between 28.7 billion and 71.1 billion barrels of oil, and between 108.6 and 490.1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas recoverable in the Permian Basin. That's certainly good news today, really good news today for energy independence and for this basin. And that little good news today means the oil and gas industry will continue to be a major contributor to the New Mexico economy. The industry accounted for over 28,000 jobs with their average weekly wages of $2,334, as compared to the state average of $905 per week. According to Demoga, the industry is responsible for over 100,000 jobs in our state, directly or indirectly. In FY 2019, the industry was responsible for 39% of New Mexico general fund revenue, a tune of $3.1 billion. Every state must have dominant industries. And the good news in New Mexico is the oil and gas industry is our go-to industry and is poised, given those reserves, to continue to be a major contributor to the health of the New Mexico economy. And in my view, some good news in the oil and gas industry has been a leader in developing and utilizing technology to improve production and to protect the environment. I grew up in the San Juan Basin during the oil and gas boom in the 1950s. That was transformational to that area. I should tell you, before the boom, we were farmers and ranchers. I remember we wore bib overalls and work shoes to school. With the influx of workers in oil and gas, we had to change our dress code. Their children, the oil field workers' children, wore slacks and loafers and had their hair cut at a barbershop instead of at home. I'll be honest with you, I never liked my mother's bowl haircuts. So that transformation in part was I got to go to the barbershop. And in the good old days in San Juan County, the desired products were oil and gas, and a somewhat less desirable product was drip gasoline. Gasoline prices were low, so the companies would look the other way if you wanted to pull up to a drip tank and help yourself. Now, we teenagers discovered drip gas burned fine in old flathead cars, but not in high compression cars. So we each had a flathead car, a bell reducer, and a hose to use to gas up at our favorite drip tank. So you just pull up your drip tank, put the bell reducer in the hose, gas up your car. You could cruise all night at no cost. Now, the cool strategy was to have an old flathead car to troll for girls and a newer high compression one to date them in. This operation, unfortunately, was shut down by the state because they were concerned about us not paying the road tax. But this is one of the good memories from the good old days in San Juan County. And in San Juan County, they drilled only vertical wells in those days, and they used fracking. I do not think it was like the original fracking where in 1862, Colonel Edward Roberts exploded artillery shells in oil wells and then pumped water in to increase the production of oil. The industry no longer drills only vertical wells, but uses horizontal drilling, reducing the surface damage and certainly increasing the efficiency of production. While fracking is still of concern to many, the improvements in technology in horizontal drilling and requirements for sealing wells has reduced much of the expressed concerns about this production practice. But I'd ask each of you to keep in mind, all production processes carry with them some element of safety and environmental consequences. But I believe the oil and gas industry has mitigated both to the extent possible. But the better news is the industry aggressively pursued new technologies. While oil and gas prices fluctuate, oftentimes with wide swings, the oil and gas industry has been very agile and adaptive to these swings. Price volatility is a constant in the industry. Recent downturns include 1986, 1987, 1993, 94, 2001, 2002, 2008, 2009, and 2014, 2016. The good news is that downturns have tended to be short-term, and then the industry came back. I think it must be because there is no foreseeable substitute for oil and gas products in this economy or the world economy for decades to come. And there is optimism and good news in the ever-increasing use of advanced technologies to extract oil and gas. To wit, new drilling rigs, new drilling bits, 3D seismic sensing, measurement while drilling, GPS tracking of rigs, rotary steerable systems, and generators powered by unprocessed natural gas. The success and survival of an industry is dependent upon the development and adoption of the latest technology. It's happened in the oil and gas industry and will continue to do so. So let's go back recalling the words of Anne Murray. As we think about where we are today, and not in a pleasant place, we are certainly not, as she would sing, where everybody loves everybody in the good old USA. But with respect to her calling and her song, we sure could use a little good news today. The oil and gas industry can reply, surely we have a little good news today. We've achieved energy independence in our great country, and it will exist for decades to come. The industry now and for decades to come will be a major contributor to the economic health of New Mexico. The industry has been at the forefront of technological developments in fracking, drilling, environmental mitigation, and will continue to strive for greater efficiency and prudent practices. And there's always an optimism and agility to survive downturns that's always been best characterized by the oil and gas industry. I remember a bumper sticker I saw, I think it was in Hobbs, could have been in Carlsbad, but I saw this bumper sticker that said, "Oh God, give me one more boom," and the good sense not to screw it up. That's optimism. Thank you for the opportunity to offer these few comments. Hope to see you in person sometime down the road. God bless.
When times get tough, it's good to know that someone has your back. At Concho, we believe our New Mexico family deserves our unwavering support to keep their community healthy and strong, because we're all in this together. It's why Concho is a sponsor for the United Way of Eddy County's Project Feeding Families that has helped over 2,300 households put food on the table through food vouchers and food grants to local nonprofits. To help fuel these efforts, Concho recently donated $10,000 to the United Way and their partnership with Roadrunner Food Bank, which distributes fresh produce and perishables like milk, cheese, and fresh meat to local people in the New Mexico community. Concho also helped secure over $120,000 in grants through the Permian Strategic Partnership New Mexico Grant Initiative. These grants support public education, affordable housing, healthcare, road safety, and workforce development in Eddy County. And as always, our employees and their dedication are who truly make this community thrive. At Concho, we've got your back by giving back.
In Southeast New Mexico, Chevron supports the communities we serve through a comprehensive approach to social investments and partnerships to improve the communities where we operate. This year, Chevron donated almost $1 million to deserving programs in Carlsbad and Eddy County, supporting health, education, and economic development. Our collaboration with New Mexico State University will bring their STEM and robotic outreach programs to local, middle, and high school students, promoting a skilled workforce for industry and other much-needed professions. This year, Chevron responded to the COVID-19 pandemic by donating thousands of PPEs to local healthcare facilities and schools. We also donated to United Way's emergency fund and gave Chevron gas cards to local nonprofits and first responders. For a century now, Chevron and its legacy companies have shared a proud heritage here in Carlsbad, developing oil and gas fields and creating opportunities for New Mexico and here in the local community. We are excited to announce the completion of Chevron's new Carlsbad field office. We are looking forward to sharing a virtual open house for now and then inviting the community to visit our new offices once it's safe to do so.
All right, I want to thank former Governor Gary Carruthers. As a matter of fact, Gary Carruthers spoke at our second Energy Summit, and we hope to have him back here in Carlsbad really soon. Thank you for Concho and Chevron for their videos too. In fact, I've got a correction. I messed up. Shannon is with Devon, and Bernadette is with Concho, so sorry about that, ladies. Both of them are on our committee, our Energy Summit committee, and they both do a great job. Now, our next speaker is a gentleman by the name of Billy Munn. Now, Billy's seen the ups and downs of this industry for many years in the oil and gas industry, and he probably knows a lot of this just as good as anyone. We appreciate him joining us today. Now, Billy Munn is the private equity investment manager for MAC Energy Corporation, and having first joined the company in 2004, and prior to joining MAC Energy, he was the president of Retex Gas Marketing Division at Tom Brown Inc., and that's a Holly corporation. And Mr. Munn was the manager of the gas supplies for its refineries. Now, don't play golf with Billy unless you got a lot of money, because he's really good. In fact, he got a scholarship at UT Austin. Had dinner with him last night. What an interesting character. Great speaker, very knowledgeable. Please help me welcome Mr. Billy Munn.
Good morning. Let me clarify something. All those jobs, I didn't become an adult till I was probably 43 years old. I was trying to be a professional golfer through a period that didn't pay anything. I went to Texas in 1960. Arnold Palmer won $61,000 that year, I think, as the leading money winner. None of my friends in the dorm wanted to play professional football, basketball, baseball, or any of the rest of it because it didn't pay anything. But we kept trying to stay in sports. My father was in the mud business in West Texas, and I had no interest. I had no desire to be any part of that. And as fate would deal the cards, when I was 43 years old, I got an opportunity at Tom Brown Inc., which was a drilling company in West Texas. The president of that was Don Evans, who later becomes Commerce Secretary. Good friend, nice man. He is now head of what's called the Permian Strategic Partnership, located in Midland now. I had the opportunity to speak up here, I guess, at the first one that the mayor put together, and I guess I was a bit cautious about the shale. I remain that way. And I will explain myself in just a minute, as opposed to the governor who just preceded me. I'm not against it. I think we got to get real about the cost to extract it. And we throw around numbers that are enormous. They were telling me there was 250 million barrels recoverable under each section in the Permian, where I live. Midland didn't have 2 commercial wells in it in that county, and now they've carpet bombed it. I don't know if they're going to pay out or not. I doubt it. And the reason I doubt it is because we haven't seen it happen. It's not about pessimism or optimism here. It's about what does it cost to do it. And I come back and think about, in order for us to be successful in this basin, we have to make profitable wells. Not enormous. They have to pay more than they cost to drill and produce. It's not complicated. Well, if you look at the price of oil for the next few months, the market's telling you it's $40. If you subtract royalty, whatever that is, whatever you're paying, you don't have a whole lot of money left to pay all your bills. Now, when I joined MAC 17 years ago, they were drilling shallow Yeso wells, and $40 was really tight at that day and time, and gas was selling for $2.50 to $3. So I'm not here, I'm 78 years old, I'm not going to see this conclude. But I will caution you that at the end of the day, there has to be a profit in this of some kind so that the services that come do the work, you can pay them a profit. At the moment in our community at home, that margin's 6 to 8%. It's tight. I don't think it works. You wear out your equipment before you can pay it out. That is what we call a reset. We're in the process of it resetting. By that I mean the price of everything we do, back from the cost of back from the commodity that you're producing and what you're being paid for. It's not that you don't have oil in the Permian Basin. The question is what does it cost us to extract it? When my father came to JAL in 1932, every well up here blew out. They had to kill it with barite. The biggest business was lumber. He came up here from Monahans in a wagon, I'm pretty sure. That was the transportation mode. They had some trucks. And as I said, I'm 78, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic or optimistic. What I think is important, more so now than any downturn I've ever witnessed, 86, 98 were two that were really embedded in my mind. This one's different because you elevated the cost of acreage and the expense of extraction so high. Folks, they were paying $80,000 an acre for a lease. $80,000. That used to be $100. $500 was outrageous. I don't know what it should be, but I'm pretty sure if you spend $80,000 per acre, you're going to have one heck of a well. And as Wall Street found this, zero interest is maybe the nemesis of a lot of this, and I'm not here to doubt it. Just we've never dealt with zero interest, meaning in just enormous amounts of money being printed around the world, and you have no safe investment to put it in. So you come to West Texas and you drill no dry holes. Can't miss. Well, who wouldn't want to do that? Except they didn't stop to measure, do all of these pay out? In the Barnett, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 80% of those were uneconomic. Studies are done at Texas, EIA, et cetera. You can go look them up. I'm not saying that all shale's bad. I'm just saying, what does it cost to get it up? That's what matters. You're going to sell oil over the next 6 months for $40 or less, according to the strip. It's not hard to figure out. If you're make money at that, great. Now, more optimistic. You're flaring 700 million a day in the Permian or thereabouts. We need to find something to do with that. You need to make something we can go sell. You could make electricity with it using generation, but the grid doesn't need it. So there's no economic motive for doing that. So we got to find something else. I say we, it won't be me, but it will be many of you. And we've got schools out here with people in them that are smart. We've got a UTPB. Every one of these communities has a good junior college, one where not very far away. Why aren't we thinking about that? I'll slow down and here say I don't think any help's coming to the sadness of the Permian Basin one way or the other. I don't think, not here as a political proponent for anybody. I don't think either one of them are coming to help you. And that's just my personal view. And I do think renewables have a bunch of wind at their back. So if we're going to wait on $80 oil next year, that's going to be a motive for the other team too. That's not all good news for us. We got to learn how to make money at these prices. Then nobody bothers you. As for energy independence, I keep hearing that. What difference does that make? We're importing 6 million barrels a day. Why are we exporting anything? Because the refineries don't want that. It's too light. That's the kind of conversations we just don't have. I don't care if they send it to Asia. Doesn't matter to me. But that's unnecessary. If it were oil the refineries needed. What do we see the refineries doing in the United States? Some of them are closing. Why? The crack spread's not good enough to make a profit. And they know gasoline sales are soft. On top of that, you have the pandemic. I don't know where it's going. I don't know if it's going to be a second wave, worse, better, or what. But it's been a depression on our demand. Saudi's sitting there with 7.5 million barrels to put back. I don't know when they're going to do it. I don't know if they're going to do it. That's a lot of pressure on price as we go forward. So once again, let's figure out how to make money at $40. Real money, not some accounting profit. And as I said, the opportunity, it seems to me, is what do you do with this enormous gas resource we have? You couldn't get greener if we turn that to electricity and go make methanol or go make urea, go make something that we can sell for better prices and better returns than what we're doing forcing oil into the market. I'll leave it with this, that I have no doubt that people out here are tough. I have no doubt. I've lived out here all my life, and I've watched people go through all kinds of downturns and live through really tough conditions. But sitting around hoping for $80 is not a plan. It's just not. You've got to work with what you have, is my view. Now, let me say this. I went broke twice, 86, 98. So I'm not an authority on financial planning or anything else. I have observed all this in my life, and I hope to share it with you. And all I would say is, it's not that we should be fearful of the future, but we should be thinking about what we can do with what we have, not what somebody else can come do for us. There's no question you've got oil and gas left out here. What the big question is, what can you do to make money producing it? You're producing 10 barrels of water for every barrel of oil out there in the Delaware. That can't be easy. Or is it cheap? And that water never gets mentioned. I hope the speakers that follow me today have much better plans and ideas and solutions to what's coming for this part of the world. It's been great to me. I wouldn't have lived anywhere else. I raised my children in Midland. And I'm very proud of being a Midland citizen. I'm a very proud employee of Mac Energy. But I also know we have to be more attentive to our own business, know our own capabilities, our own costs. As my old golf teacher, Pennick, would say, fundamentals are never going to lie. A good grip, there's not a good player with a bad grip. And there isn't. So we need to be responsible for our own economics of extraction, not advertise to the world how many barrels we got out here, because that doesn't matter. What matters is, can we do it successfully and can we do it profitably? I thank the mayor, the good people of Carlsbad. You got a gorgeous town, and you're in a unique area. You got as good a production as there is anywhere in the country right now. I hope that continues, and I hope that I get to visit again. I hope I live long enough to be back here again. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly Saltzgiver. I work for Marathon Oil. I'm the production superintendent in the Permian Basin, based out of the Carlsbad office. At Marathon Oil, we understand the Carlsbad community, which many of our local employees and contractors call home, is facing unprecedented challenges along with the rest of the country. That's why we launched a new partnership to serve Eddy County with the Roadrunner Food Bank. This partnership brought a new childhood hunger initiative program in the Carlsbad Municipal School District, the first of its kind in Eddy County, providing approximately 150 families with 50 pounds of food each month. The monthly distributions began in May, and together we have already provided 31,600 meals, or nearly 38,000 pounds of food, to 750 Carlsbad families. While this program was set up to meet the immediate needs of the Carlsbad students and their families, it will be an ongoing program within the school district, lasting long beyond COVID-19 response. We are so grateful to the Roadrunner Food Bank and Carlsbad Municipal Schools for their partnership.
Hi, my name is Juan Gama. I am co-owner of Gama Transport Construction and PCS, Powder Coating Solutions. I am one of two owners, my brother Enrique Gama, who is my other partner. Well, growing up in Carlsbad has been a blessing. We moved here when I was 6 years old, but I'm considering myself from Carlsbad. The community in itself and everyone's been part of this community has always come together to always help each other in a time of need. This is such a small knit community that you see the people that you work with from your elementary school years to junior high to the high school. And being able to see those communities and evolve as we evolved since the oil and gas got here, it's been a blessing. And being able to share those responsibilities and share that wealth with every single one is why we choose to stay here in Carlsbad. Well, I think we're going to be able to come back up, being that we are very diversified in different industries. We have oil and gas, potash, we have the whip side, nuclear disposal. So we have different diversities there. I know that we're going to be coming together. Yes, our oil and gas is not at its best, but it's always something, a cycle that we always go through. And I believe we're going to come strong. 2021 is going to be a strong year.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Munn, for that insightful presentation. What a great job, and really enjoyed dinner last night with you and Bradley. Interesting character. If you ever get to talk to him on the side, please do. He's very interested. And we want to thank all our partners who submitted videos on information about what they're up to. Thank you very much. Next, we'd like to honor a Spirit of Oilfield Award recipient. His name is Steven Dominguez. He comes to us from XTO Energy, where he is a completions and well work safety supervisor. And Steven's nominator, Kelly Dominguez, also included feedback from two of Steven's co-workers, Carl Randolph and Amanda Hernandez. And here's what we were told, quote, Steven proves that with hard work and determination, a person can do anything and go anywhere. Stephen never takes credit for anything himself. In fact, he's always given the credit to somebody else. And that's why he's so deserving of this award, because he's just good at his job too. So on stage right now, we have Mayor Janway, Stephen, and Rick Cannon up on stage. And I'm going to read the proclamation that the mayor's going to give to him right now. Stephen Dominguez represents the spirit of the oil field for his service to the community and professionalism as a completions well work safety supervisor with XTO Energy. Stephen has worked his way up to the ranks at XTO by always focusing on safety and by being highly efficient worker. He personally reviews all the possible safety incidents to look for what was happening and the ways to improve that. He is credited with developing close personal relationships with all his coworkers and looks out for every member of his team. He has been a leader in Colorado, Arkansas, Argentina, prior to coming to Carlsbad. He has proven that with hard work and determination, a person can do anything and go anywhere. Signed, Carlsbad Mayor Dale Janway.
Congratulations. Thank you. Very appreciate it. You want to say a few words?
I'd like to say real quick, thank you. Thank you to everybody on the committee and everybody who's working with all of the industry here in Carlsbad and New Mexico area. So, I've been here in Carlsbad for probably 4 months now, and I really enjoy it. It's a beautiful country and area, and I've met many very nice people here in Carlsbad. So, but I want to say thank you to everybody.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Very well deserved. Our next speaker came to Carlsbad just a few months ago, and everyone that we've talked to that has met this gentleman has nothing but great things to say about him. And Rick Cannon is responsible for the safe and responsible operation of XTO Energy's asset here in the basin. Rick began his career with ExxonMobil as a reservoir surveillance engineer for assets in the Gulf of Mexico. He has held engineering operations and management positions in locations including New Orleans, Houston, Alaska, Australia, and Norway. Rick and his wife Becca had 3 boys. Jake's 10, Grant's 12, and Trace's 14. Please help me welcome to the podium Rick Cannon.
Thank you, Danny, and thank you, Mayor Janway, for the invitation to participate in this year's Energy Summit. I would like to comment real quick on one of Billy's comments. I also wanted to be a professional baseball player and a fighter pilot, but somehow ended up in the oil industry as well. Now, while I've had the opportunity to meet a number of you personally since assuming my role here in May, I would like to start by introducing myself. I'm Rick Cannon. I'm the production manager for XTO Energy here in Carlsbad for the Delaware Basin assets. And to set the stage for my remarks today, I'd like to say, similar to some of our other speakers, 2020 has not gone exactly according to anyone's plan this year. The unique challenges of COVID-19, the pandemic, the subsequent economic impacts have forced us all to adapt and change. Now, whether it's transitioning important annual events like this to a virtual format, or transitioning in-person school to online learning, the pace of the development of New Mexico's natural resources, we can say that everything has changed and been thrown up in the air this year. Now, I know each of us here has been individually and collectively challenged. I know personally and professionally we've all been dealing with obstacles. And that's what I want to speak about today, how XTO and how our partners in this room have responded to that challenge, and how we've risen to meet that challenge. Now, I'll touch upon 3 areas in particular. First, I'll share our overview of our COVID-19 response, the changes we've made to our operations to keep our local operations team safe and healthy. I'll then highlight some of the work the company and our community partners have taken to address some of the social needs raised by the pandemic. And finally, I'll conclude by providing a business update for our operations in the basin. So first, at XTO, the health and safety of our employees and community have always been at the foremost of our thoughts and plans. It's the core of everything we do. And that commitment's only been strengthened by the COVID-19 challenges. So in light of the current circumstances, we've taken proactive steps to minimize the risk of infection, both for our workforce and the community. And I'll highlight a couple of those. First, we've relooked at all our employees and where they work. Can they work from home? And those that might have a complication or a challenge that might be impacted by working in close proximity, we've found ways to allow those folks to work remotely. Second, we're disinfecting control rooms, panels, keyboards, common areas more frequently in between every shift change. Third, we're limiting access to our sites. We're screening individuals before they come on site, and we're restricting visitors and control points as much as possible. One of the key steps is we're maintaining social distance at all times, and for areas that we wouldn't think about originally, meals, breaks, and where we can't maintain that social distance, we're requiring masks. We're also limiting on-site meetings to 10 or less, and we're taking a hard look at who actually needs to participate in these meetings in person. And we're adopting virtual meeting technology to have the larger meetings that you need to have to make sure you're running your operations safely and efficiently, using formats similar to what we're using today for this conference. And one we sometimes take for granted, we're taking advantage of New Mexico's abundant natural sunshine to conduct meetings outdoors wherever possible, instead of in control rooms, offices, conference rooms, et cetera. Now, this time of year, it's a lot better to do that than probably July or August, but it is an opportunity we're taking advantage of. Now, should prevention fail, we also have response and protocols in place on how we respond. So if someone on one of our sites reports a positive test or has symptoms, the first step we take is to make sure they're taken care of or they're evaluated. Once we've determined whether they need treatment, we make sure we're working with their medical professionals and our internal experts, and then we isolate that individual. And then we look at who they've been in contact with and make sure those folks are isolated and taken care of as well. And before an individual is allowed back on site, it needs to be more than 10 days since they've exhibited any symptoms, or most importantly, consecutive negative tests for COVID. So now I'm proud to report, as a result of our team's proactivity and cooperation, we've had minimal number of cases in our operations. And we've determined none of them have been contracted actually at the workplace. So I commend all our staff for their ongoing efforts to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the workplace, and most importantly, that means we're preventing the spread in the community as well. So second, I'd like to highlight some of the incredible collaboration that's arisen to help those in need during this pandemic and this social crisis. So as you know, the state of New Mexico made the difficult decision in mid-March to close in-person schooling for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. And it's still, the school year started this year remote as well for the area. And we're feeling that impact right here in Carlsbad. More than 7,000 students are impacted as we try to figure out, how those students are going to be able to participate when they're not able to access school facilities, school-provided meals, and that direct classroom instruction. As Danny mentioned, that's something we're facing as a family as well, with my 3 boys enrolled in school in Carlsbad, trying to overcome not being able to meet their teachers and classmates in person. But I think everyone is working remarkably well to try to overcome that challenge. So as a company, XTO's long supported initiatives designed to support students and teachers. Our goal as a neighbor and an active community participant is to help students and teachers with their lessons with as little disruption during this period as possible. And we were proud to help ease that transition to online education this spring with a $100,000 donation to Carlsbad Municipal Schools to equip their teachers and students with the tools needed to adapt to online learning. Second, we owe another Carlsbad neighbor some thanks and recognition during this period as well. Carol Worley has made sure local children haven't gone hungry during the pandemic. With so many lives upended, the need's never been greater, and Packs for Hunger is now feeding more than 200 families each week. This local organization has responded with an extraordinary level of commitment and compassion. And we're honored to help that organization and Carroll continue and expand their mission with a donation of $20,000. Now, as part of a larger organization, XTO's parent company, ExxonMobil, has stepped up in incredible ways. It reconfigured manufacturing operations to increase production of essential chemicals and how we respond to this crisis. Such as isopropyl alcohol for hand sanitizer, something that simple, but it's allowed us to deliver over 12,000 gallons of hand sanitizer to some of New Mexico's hardest hit communities. We've also collaborated to create specialty polypropylene for masks and medical garments, and even further, our organization here and our workforce have donated educational supplies to schools and PPE for first responders right here in Carlsbad. And finally, last week, one that I'm very excited about, ExxonMobil and the National Math and Science Initiative announced they're bringing college readiness and foundational educational programs to students in the Permian area, including right here in the Carlsbad Municipal Schools. This Laying the Foundation program will provide educators of 3rd through 12th grade students with hands-on training, strategies, and resources to raise academic rigor, and prepare students for advanced critical thinking in both classroom-based and virtual settings. While the College Readiness Program aims to increase student participation and performance in advanced placement courses in the STEM sciences, or STEM arts, math, science, computer science, and English coursework. And both will commence this school year. Now, finally, I'll turn our attention to our response to the challenging business climate. And we've heard some of those challenges earlier in the sessions. Now, while we've seen some recovering energy demand from the lows experienced earlier in the pandemic, ExxonMobil did announce a reduction of our 2020 capital programs by about 30%, as well as a target to reduce operating expenses by about 15%. And that's to address the point raised earlier. We've got to get our cost of supply low enough to continue to make positive returns during this lower demand period. Now, these decisions were taken to help weather lower commodity prices resulting from the oversupply and demand weakness and other impacts from the COVID crisis. Now, these reductions in capital expenditures are distributed across ExxonMobil's various upstream, downstream, and chemical business units, even here in the Permian Basin. Now, here in the basin, we do have the ability with our short cycle investments to readily adjust and respond to market conditions, while also still preserving a long-term value. Now, as a result, we have taken steps to reduce and manage our execution for projects in the basin, but we are focused on preserving long-term value, maximizing our near-term cash flow, and then also position us so that we can respond when and if the market turns. So despite those short-term impacts, the long-term fundamentals that underpin our corporate ExxonMobil business plan haven't changed. We'll continue to invest in projects that create value, that make those returns we require. So in short, the Permian Basin and the Delaware Basin specifically remain a key component of that company plan and that future. So while overall activity levels have been reduced, we're still very busy in the area. We're running roughly a dozen drilling rigs and 2 frac crews in New Mexico and plan to continue to focus activity in these areas. We've also logged some 12 million work hours for construction activities in New Mexico in 2019 and year-to-date in 2020, with more than 3 million of those hours focused on finishing our Cowboy Central delivery point, which started up this year in Eddy County. So this world-class facility is designed to gather and process oil, natural gas liquids, and at full capacity can handle 200,000 barrels of oil a day and about 400 million standard cubic feet of gas a day. So during this challenging time, we've also been actively engaged with the state of New Mexico to put in place reasonable solutions to challenges brought on by the pandemic and the market conditions, and are very grateful for their collaborative and pragmatic approach. Some examples are the way we've been able to shut in wells temporarily that have challenged economics while maintaining regulatory compliance and other similar programs. Now, XTO as a company continues to look for new and better ways to monitor and reduce our methane emissions at our unconventional operations, including here in the Delaware Basin. We're collaborating with universities, environmental groups, and industrial partners to find better solutions, and several of those have been announced recently. That involves technology from remote sensing to drone work to infrared cameras. Now, we also continue to test the most promising next generation methane detection techniques, and we're focusing that on more than 1,000 sites in New Mexico and Texas. So we believe you must be just as focused on that long-term sustainable growth as we are on the profitable growth. And every operator must do everything they can to try to reduce that methane emission in their flaring. So real quickly on the topic of flaring, as it was mentioned earlier, our experience in the Permian Basin demonstrates some best practices on how to reduce routine flaring. This has been a focus area for ExxonMobil and XTO Energy. A little over a year ago, we instituted much stricter protocols on reducing flaring at our U.S. unconventional operations. This protocol included installation of new equipment to capture emissions, completing wells only when there's the natural gas takeaway capacity to flow those wells, and also shutting in production if there's prolonged mechanical upsets. And the results have been extremely encouraging. Over the last 18 months, we've significantly reduced our flaring volumes in the basin, primarily in New Mexico and Texas. And it just proves you can find cost-effective ways to reduce those emissions and capture that product for sale, which is the ultimate goal. Now, as you can tell, despite the pandemic and associated market downturn, XTO Energy remains committed both to business and community continuity. So the achievements highlighted today would not have been possible without our incredible, adaptable, and dedicated staff. And you've met one of those staff members here earlier, Stephen. It's just a representative of the incredibly committed workforce we've got here in New Mexico. You know, they're focused on the safety and operational integrity and continuing to deliver a more efficient product for the corporation. They are, without question, our most valuable resource. So just in closing, I'd like to extend my gratitude for the opportunity to participate here today. Thanks for the mayor and all those who helped support this forum. And I'd also like to thank everyone for welcoming my family so warmly to the Carlsbad area. Very much appreciated. And I look forward to working with each of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rick Cannon, for that insightful presentation. And I want XTO to know that we appreciate everything you guys do for us here in Carlsbad. A lot more than Rick even mentioned. They're always willing to step up and help us. Daniel Trujillo, great job. Thank you very much for all you do and supporting the community. Right now, though, we've got a few more of our partners, and they sent in videos to let us know what they're up to. We'll run those now.
Carlsbad's a good place for me to run my business. We're an oil and gas community. We've been here, this business has been started for about 5 years. I'm born and raised here. It's a great community. I love everybody here. The mayor's been very, very helpful to us. So yeah, it was a no-brainer to start the business here. Here at A.R. Foreman Construction, the services that we offer are oil field construction services. We build compressor stations, tank batteries, we do pipeline. We offer mechanical, civil, electrical. That's a new department for us. We've had that for about 2 years now. So those are some of the services that we provide. I'm optimistic about the future because we're a tough community. We're not going to let a pandemic bring us down. We are all going to pull together just like we have in the past. We've seen downturns in this industry, but we will pull together and we'll make it through this.
Kodiak Oilfield Services is a licensed and bonded freight shipping and trucking company in Carlsbad. Kodiak is committed to safety and is very proud to be a part of the Carlsbad community, which has been a great place to build a business. Owner Sonia Braddock raised 3 children in Carlsbad, Michael, Aaron, and Ileana, and she says Carlsbad has been a great place for her family. She looks forward to a bright future here.
to the foundation. Thank you to Anthony Foreman and Sonia over at Kodiak Trucking. Very, very good community partners. We appreciate you very much. Okay, Occidental is joining us next. Occidental CEO Vicky Holub is going to look into the future of Occidental's operation, and then following Vicky will be a presentation, and we'll hear from Babatunde Cole. He's the President and General Manager, New Mexico Business Unit, Permian Resources, and in that role, he oversees the development and production of unconventional reservoirs in the Delaware Basin here in New Mexico, where he's responsible for improving operational excellence and accelerating the growth of those assets. And we look forward to hearing from them both. Here they are.
As Occidental celebrates its 100th anniversary, we're setting the course for the next 100 years. We are creating sustainable ways to produce life-enhancing energy, challenging the status quo, and taking a leadership role in realizing a low-carbon world. We're poised to become the energy company of the future. Because of our core competency in enhanced oil recovery, or EOR, and our vast experience using carbon dioxide for EOR, we are uniquely positioned to take the lead in reducing global atmospheric CO2 emissions through carbon dioxide storage, with the potential to move beyond lowering just our carbon emissions to realizing our goal of generating lower carbon products like neutral or negative carbon oil, and helping other companies and industries decarbonize as well. It's not only the right thing to do, it's who we are as a company. It's been in our DNA for an entire century. We're proud to be a part of the Carlsbad community, and Occidental is committed to safe, sustainable operations that will support our path toward a lower carbon future.
For 40 years, Occidental has been a leader in managing and storing carbon dioxide. It all started in the oil-rich reservoirs of the sprawling lands of West Texas and New Mexico, known as the Permian Basin. While others were leaving these maturing oil fields, we saw an opportunity to produce resources still trapped underground. To develop this field, we applied enhanced oil recovery, injecting naturally occurring CO2 into underground reservoirs, where the CO2 mixes with oil to reduce its viscosity, enabling oil to flow more easily to the surface. Through this process, most of the CO2 used is permanently stored underground. Occidental is one of the largest CO2 users for EOR in the world, permanently storing nearly 20 million tons of CO2 in secure geologic formations in the Permian each year. We believe our position in the Permian will allow us to offset the emissions equivalent of over 4 million cars with the capture and use of human-made CO2. And through expanded partnerships and technology advancements, we expect to have the opportunity to retire much more. Having experience in managing CO2 is just one piece of making this vision of a lower carbon future a reality. It also takes working with others to promote a practical regulatory and legislative framework that encourages the development of carbon capture projects and technologies, resulting in a landmark shift for carbon capture investments. We collaborated with the Carbon Capture Coalition and non-governmental organizations and others to support the passage of the Future Act, a key bipartisan bill that enhanced tax incentives to install equipment to capture CO2. This legislation is intended to encourage widespread deployment of carbon capture technologies that help to reduce emissions. As one of the first U.S. companies to join the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative, setting global methane reduction targets and making investments in new technologies to accelerate emissions reductions, and we were the first U.S. company to endorse the World Bank's initiative to eliminate routine flaring by 2030. Capitalizing on our carbon management expertise, we launched Oxy Low Carbon Ventures in 2018 to advance new technologies that provide solutions for low carbon energy, power, and products, as well as economically source atmospheric human-made CO2 for our operations. Our carbon specialists are advancing cutting-edge, low-carbon technology solutions through a number of ventures and projects to develop carbon capture utilization and storage projects, reduce direct emissions, and improve energy efficiency. These initiatives leverage our experience in managing CO2 to help further our aspiration of implementing a carbon-neutral energy cycle. pulling CO2 directly from the atmosphere and permanently storing it underground in an amount equal to the CO2 emitted through production, processing, and combustion of oil and fuels. Since the team's inception, we've made several investments to capture and store human-made carbon dioxide, reduce the carbon intensity of oil, and support our EOR operations. One of these investments is Carbon Engineering's direct air capture technology, which pulls CO2 directly from the atmosphere that we intend to use in our EOR operations, which would allow us to produce lower carbon products such as transportation fuels. Our Low Carbon Ventures team is also advising other companies across multiple industries looking for tools to help them realize their carbon reduction goals.
Leadership and expertise in carbon management, government and stakeholder engagement, investments in groundbreaking technologies, all are essential to making a lower carbon world possible. As Occidental celebrates its 100th anniversary, we're on a transformative path, poised to become the energy company of the future.
All right. Hi, and good morning, everyone. I want to start out by thanking Mayor Jen for inviting Occidental here that helped make this event possible via Zoom. I know it's challenging times, so thank you for your help. I am the president and general manager of our New Mexico business unit, and I'm here to give an update on our operations in Eddy County. I've had this position now for about 2 years, and I'm responsible for the unconventional assets in Southeast New Mexico development area. As Vicki said in her video, it is a special year for Oxy. It is our 100-year anniversary. And what's interesting is we've actually been operating in Carlsbad, in the area for almost as long. Our predecessor companies had leases in the Southeast New Mexico since the 1920s. So Carlsbad is an important community that we're proud to be part of. In terms of where Occidental is today, we are one of the largest producers in the Permian. We are the largest acreage holder in the Permian. And we believe our strengths currently are the strength of our employees, the quality of our assets, and our technical expertise. And our goal is to continue to build on those strengths as we go forward. As Vicki showed in the video, we have a lot of passion around low carbon projects and initiatives. And our goal is to reduce our emissions and also to help others reduce their emissions. And I'm going to talk through my presentation on how we're applying some of that in our operations. So I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to share my presentation.
Vicki Hollab and Barbara Tunde Cole. Seems like we had a little difficulty on a Zoom shot there. Before our next speaker, however, I want to go back and make sure that everyone knew that our first speaker, Gary Carruthers, was our 27th governor here in New Mexico and worked for the Secretary of Interior from the early 1980s, and just a wealth of information. And again, I didn't get a chance to, but thank you, Governor Carruthers. And all of our companies are helping us here in the community. In fact, I've got something here that Marathon Oil, in conjunction with the Truckers Against Human Trafficking in the New Mexico Attorney General Office, on October 28th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 Mountain Daylight Time, they're going to have a Zoom link and a presentation about creating local partnerships to end human trafficking. So if you're interested in that, please contact Kyle Marksteiner at the City of Carlsbad. He'll give you that link, and so you can register to that. As you know, human trafficking is a huge problem, and again, one of our oil partners, Marathon Oil, is involved in that. So we want to thank them very good and very much. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Timothy L. Parker, is getting ready right now. Oh, okay. Let's do that then.
All right. I think I'm back on. Sorry about the technical difficulties getting the Zoom working. So I want to just go through, give an update on our Eddy County operations. Like the prior speaker from XCO talked about, safety is our #1 priority. We have a very simple slogan, which goes by the phrase #HomeSafe. It's a simple reminder that regardless of what task at hand, whatever the records or achievements, the #1 achievement we can do every day is to ensure everybody gets home safe. So that is paramount. We'll talk a little bit about GHG emissions and water recycling and what we're doing to ensure we have a sustainable development in Southeast New Mexico. And we'll give an update on our community investments as we go further along through the presentation. So regarding GHG emissions, like Rick said from XTO, there's no silver bullet. It's really a combination of technology and design, workflow, processes, and planning. Regarding technology, we use that to automate our surveillance processes on how we repair and detect leaks. We use it to better tie in all our devices to a centralized system that can be proactive and detect instances of emissions before they occur and call out the technicians to repair them. In Southeast New Mexico, we are piloting a tankless facility. So what that is, it's a facility that separates all gas and water, and it has no tanks, which are the major source of emissions. So after a very, very successful demonstration, we plan to upscale that pilot sometime next year. The other thing we do for emissions is we look for very, very practical solutions to emissions. I'm going to give an example of that using our Aventine Logistics Hub, which is shown in the picture on the right there. Through this hub, we've been able to reduce traffic and emissions in the community. So this integrated hub brings facilities for frac sand, drilling services and equipment, and cementing under one roof to one centralized location by rail. And we use that to contribute to worksite safety and road safety. So since we began operating this facility, we've avoided 6.2 million miles of truck traffic to our sites in total. So that's a huge, huge accomplishment. As with the other companies, flaring is really important to Oxy. We've worked to reduce our flare volumes. One thing we're proud of is we were the first U.S. company to join the World Bank Zero Routine Flaring Initiative by 2030. So really, really proud of Oxy stepping up. When you look at our Permian Basin operations, we've been able to reduce our flaring from August 2018 to August 2020 by about 96.8%. So really, really lots of effort in getting there. Some of the recent reports that have come out, and this one in particular is by the Environmental Defense Fund, lists Oxy as one of the best-in-class producers based on flaring intensity. So to accomplish that, what we did in 2018, we made the decision in Southeast New Mexico to create a gathering system that connects all our major developments in the Greater Sound Dunes area together. And this was done to mitigate third-party interruptions and also reduce the unscheduled flaring events. So what this gas system allows us to do is to move gas to various third-party midstream companies dynamically and efficiently. So we can send gas bidirectionally between our fields, and the total pipeline length is about 23 miles. We've also worked with our third-party processors to purchase additional capacity to make sure we have an outlet for our gas if outages occur. So although our goal is ultimately zero, we've been able to reduce our gas flare to about 1% of our sales gas, which the report lists as best in class. I'm going to talk a little bit about water recycling. This has been a huge success story for us. And in Southeast New Mexico, one of our goals is to reduce our use of fresh water for our operations. So when we first started out in 2016, we built a small pilot water recycling center to recycle just water for a handful of wells. You fast forward from there till today, we have capacity to recycle 260,000 barrels of produced water a day and capacity to store more than 4.8 million barrels of recycled produced water a day. So huge step up in the infrastructure. So also on the recycled volumes, when we first started, we recycled about 1.7 million barrels the first year. And last year alone, in 2019, we recycled about 25.9 million barrels of water to use for operations. So huge growth in our recycling operations. And what's really interesting with that also is we've also been able to reduce our cost at the same time by applying technology. So what you have here is a very sustainable solution to reducing the reliance of fresh water and also reducing costs. So we're really proud of this accomplishment. I want to give an update on our community investment projects. At Oxy, we believe in giving back to the communities that support us and help our neighbors. As I shared earlier before, safety is an integral part of our operations, and we want to do our part to also keep our communities safe. So Oxy historically has provided grants to our first responders across the Permian to fund PPE, personal protective equipment, and other essential safety equipment to help support the community. We've also partnered with the Roadrunner Food Bank to help promote and support healthy communities and to fund mobile pantry programs in Carlsbad and Hobbs. So essentially, through our efforts with the Roadrunner Food Bank, we've been able to increase the amount of food going to Eddy and Lee counties since our partnership. And they've been able to launch 3 new food distribution centers. So 1 for the New Childhood Initiative school program and 2 new mobile food distribution. So as a result of all these efforts, there's about 37% higher pounds of food going to Eddy County than before. So this is really essential given that we're in a pandemic. The last thing I want to touch upon is our partnership with the Boys and Girls Club to help support their youth programs. You know, we've looked for ways to support outdoor recreational activities and programs, which are becoming increasingly important to youth and families. And we know that's important to get outdoors, especially during the current pandemic. So recently we sponsored about 100 registrants for softball and baseball camps through Carlsbad National Little League earlier this year. So we're really proud of that effort. So in closing, I just want to reiterate Vicky's comment that she said earlier. We are committed to the city of Carlsbad. We have invested in the community for quite some time, and we look forward to continuing to support it. We do believe our employees are our greatest assets, and all the results I talked about earlier in the presentation would not be possible without their help. So I want to say thank you to our employees for all their hard work. We know there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now over the past few months, but one thing we believe you can count on is Oxy's commitment to Carlsbad. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Babatunde Cole. As you can see, we had to come back to him. We're doing this live, first time virtual, and again, I want to thank Red Rocket for doing a great job. We lost that signal, but we got it back, and a great presentation. Thank you, Babatunde Cole from Occidental. Now, roads are important to all of us, as everybody that lives here in Southeast New Mexico knows. So we've invited Timothy L. Parker, the District 2 engineer for the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Now, Tim brings 26 years experience, a diverse experience here to Southeast New Mexico. But prior to moving back to Southeast New Mexico, he was appointed the District 3 Albuquerque Metro District Engineer by then Cabinet Secretary Tom Church. Now, I think this is interesting. There, he served nearly half the state's population and over 58% of the state's elected officials. Thanks for joining us today, Tim, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much. And Mayor, always appreciate the opportunity to share what's happening with the New Mexico Department of Transportation, specifically in this area around Carlsbad. the NMDOT, I've been serving in this current capacity for 5.5 years. And one of the things that's really interesting to see is how the efforts of the local community, the BAT Brigade, and local officials going through the legislative process, because we've got some pretty amazing size and scope projects to address some of the needs we have with the extractive industries. And so what I wanted to do today is share a little bit of an overview for those that might not be familiar with our district, and then go into a little more of the projects that we have coming your way. So the District 2 is all of southeastern New Mexico. It covers 11 counties, 2 Air Force bases, Fort Bliss, and then you've got Cannon and Holloman Air Force Base. You've got the Mescalero Apache Tribe. About 137 communities we serve in southeastern New Mexico, and so things can be pretty dynamic when it comes to fighting for money and trying to get regional equity, as you would call it, around our district. It can be a very unique challenge, especially when you've got a quarter of the state's road network. We currently have about 336 full-time employees that I'm accountable for, and as well as their safety every day. But unfortunately, we've got about a 19% vacancy rate, and that creates some very unique challenges. COVID-19, how has it affected us? Well, we have a great opportunity to build if our projects were completely ready to build in COVID-19. Most of our staff are actually still out in the field. They're working on construction projects, they're working on maintenance projects, and they're getting it done. We really haven't missed a beat with COVID-19 out in the field. Have we had a few exposures? Yes. Have we had a staff member or two that has contracted COVID? Yes, we have. But we have procedures and processes to deal with that so that we're able to respond quickly and keep moving forward, trying to keep that forward momentum we've built over the last several years to get us where we're at today, really positioned to tackle some of the biggest projects the state has ever seen. Next slide, please. Next slide. And so some of you are aware that funding has become interesting. How are we going to fund? I don't know a better way of putting that, but interesting. And how do you fund in an environment where the New Mexico Department of Transportation has 4 primary means of revenue: the gas tax, special fuels, weight distance, and the motor vehicle excise tax. And several of you are aware that the NMDOT District 2 was to receive $50 million over the next 2 years coming to basically Eddy County for some of these capital infrastructure projects. And recently the projections were showing that the motor vehicle excise tax was going to come up short about $19 million. And I found out about that 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so trying to juggle things and to make things plumb. And so on this slide where I talk about our top priorities, I put it in red, FF. FF means fully funded. And so that's really the good news of what I'm able to come and share with you today through the efforts of the governor, our cabinet secretary, Michael Sandoval, who's committed to the area, to come in today and share that 285, all 4 phases of that, is fully funded, and it's about $145 million investment there south of Loving. And we've got 2 of the first 4 phases started already. The next 2, which will be the labor-intensive portion, involves about 90 right-of-way takes from Loving south. So a lot of right-of-way that needs to be dealt with. Utilities are a big issue that needs to be dealt with, but it's a fully funded project, and I'm really happy to be able to share that with you today because it's what we consider, and I know it's what most of you watching here today consider, a regionally significant project, but it is fully funded. We had to juggle some things around. That means in our state transportation improvement program, there will be some projects that are moved maybe a year or 2 back to afford us to keep these projects here in the Eddy and Lee County area functioning, fully funded, and moving forward. The next project, of course, is the New Mexico 31-128 Design Build project, and that is moving forward. In fact, just recently, I'll go into a little more detail on that project here in a minute, but that project, we had a kickoff meeting just the other day, last week, and it went very, very good. Not a high attendance online, but we had a good attendance, and basically what we've done, we've contracted with WSP, a large international consultant, to be our program manager, someone to help us get through the initial stages of the design-build process, to get us to 10, 15 to 30% of a design plan that we can hand off to a design-build firm, a design-build contractor to come in and take care of this for us. And then WSP will stay through the entire construction process to help us with project management. But New Mexico 31-128, the first 8 miles of New Mexico 31, I'm proud to say, is fully funded. And our goal is that's going to be a 4-lane. New Mexico 128, the 52 miles, that's about a $200 million project, and we still need about $140 million to make that whole. And so that's where I appreciate everybody's help with letters and talking to your elected officials to continue to help raise awareness of the funding need that we have on New Mexico 128. Another top priority is US 380, Roswell to the state line through Tatum. That's going to be another $70 to $100 million project. We just had the public meeting for that last night online. And it's another regionally significant infrastructure project, but the reality is it's still $75 to $100 million to get that taken care of. And then, of course, I think the other thing that's very important to us in this region is that the WIP primary routes have become secondary routes. And so we've got to, that the secondary routes have become the primary routes. And so we're having to look and creatively as we do these construction projects in JAL on 128, where are we going to route the WIP shipments? And so we're working with Waste Isolation Pilot Plant, we're working with the feds, we're working with the state and the counties to try and come up with some creative solutions to make that happen and to make it happen effectively and efficiently. If you go to the next slide, please. This was one of the slides that WSP provided me, and I thought it was interesting to share with you here today. Some of the safety data, you know, these are safety projects. The New Mexico 285 project received a $25 million build grant because of the safety issues that we have. If you were in an accident on 285 south of Loving, you're 3.5 times more likely to pass away if you're in a motor vehicle accident. And the safety corridor has helped. Sammy Cloutier with the state police told me earlier that he can totally see how the safety corridor is making a positive impact in that area south of 285. But this is some of the data that the design build program management team of WSP came up with. And if you go to the next slide, it's a little more clear. I zoomed in on it. Fatal crashes, injury crashes, and then property damage only crashes. And you can kind of see some of the numbers that we have on there. And most of these are preventable accidents. A lot of times it's fairly easy to blame the road, but I think a lot of the traveling public don't realize that driving isn't an entitlement, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to drive on our roads. And so some folks don't take that responsibility seriously. And they make very poor decisions when it comes to passing when you're not supposed to, passing down the ditch. And there's a lot of construction on 285 right now, and so we're wanting to keep it very safe. So these are the type of issues that we have, is dealing with really and truly preventable crashes where folks they're running late, they didn't leave early enough, maybe there is a little bit of a backup and they feel entitled to be able to go around everybody. And that's where I need industry's help. Some have put GPS on their vehicles, some have done other things to help raise awareness when it comes to safety. But I do appreciate those good stewards we have on the roadways that are taking it by the horns and really trying to make our roads a safer place to be. So thank you. Next slide, another bit of information on the 31-128 intersection relating to crash data from 2014 to 2018. And then the next slide, the same. If we can go to the next slide, on the types of road profiles we're looking at for 31 and 128. 128, the Cabinet Secretary would like to make it a complete 4-lane, and obviously that's going to be something we put a lot of emphasis on. 4 lanes is more expensive than continuous passing lanes, which is more expensive than a passing lane every 3 to 5 miles. And so we're going to evaluate what's best service. You know, the goal is 4 lanes, but if funding only allows for passing lanes every 3 to 5 miles, we're going to do that. And in a design build process, you know, our traditional design bid build process can take 2 to 4 to 5 years once funding's established. And so in a design build process, it really fast tracks everything. And so we're able to be designing and building all at the same time. And so we fully expect that these projects will get knocked out very, very quickly. Next slide. The county, through Big Al's leadership and county leadership, they have done a contract arrangement with a consultant called Stantec, another big international consultant, and they're looking at the 31-285 intersection as the intermediate fix, but right before the design build gets going, to come up with some of the solutions to the current problems that we have right now. In fact, they've been problems we've had for the last 5 years, but if you go to the next slide, these are from Stantec now. Here's some of the traffic volumes that area sees down there by the 285-31 intersection. Next slide, please. And when you do a location study or you do preliminary design, preliminary project development, we always look at a no-build solution because that is the, you know, in my mind, the worst case scenario. And I'll just tell you right now, this isn't going to happen. There is going to be some changes at that 31 and 285 intersection. But anytime we get into the project development process, we always have to evaluate what happens over time if we didn't do anything at all, if we did not expend the investments. And so the no-build solution, I'm just telling you, it's not going to happen. Next slide. It's going to be some form, our intermediate phase, prior to having hopefully a grade separated interchange, is going to be 2 different types of intersections. One's a traditional T, lighted, and next slide please, a high T. And the big difference between those two is that southbound traffic coming from Carlsbad to Loving will be able to continuously flow and go and not have to stop at a red light. And so that obviously creates some efficiencies when you're able to have a free flow condition. And so the high T intersection is currently the favored intersection there at 31 and 285. And we recently had a public meeting, and I'm sure they're assimilating the information from that. Next slide. There's also going to be a couple different locations. It's probably not going to be at the same location it's at for issues with railroad, for issues with the curve that many of y'all are aware of. So 2 different location situations. Next slide, please. But something that I wanted to share as I start winding down my time with you here this morning is the next slide. A lot of folks don't realize we only have about 10 people here in the Carlsbad maintenance patrol yard. We have less than, I think, 5 in Hobbs, hard to hire area, and we've got about 8 in Jowl. And take a look at these numbers. You know, our key partner, the New Mexico State Police, we do a lot of call-outs for them and help with traffic control, help with accident management. And so just for 2019, just to keep some things in perspective on, we talk about the safety, the call-outs, 885 call-outs for the calendar year 2019, about 19,500 man-hours invested in the area due to accidents, torn fences, fixing pothole patches, blade patches, things like that. And the average call out, now for those of you that are in operations, you can see the impact when you have so few people, average of 7 hours per call. And so I appreciate some watching here today, your patience when it comes to weed. I appreciate weeds. The weeds problem is terrible, and our vegetation management is one of the things we're always trying to get caught up on, and we're still not quite there. We would love to try and outsource that at some point. But we're not quite there yet with contractual agreements with subbing it out, basically, to cut the weeds, cut the grass. And so, you know, that is always an issue. I get phone calls on that every year, and we also get phone calls regarding trash. I mean, it's really terrible how some folks are not a good steward of our roadways, and they just let their these ice sacks just go floating off and hit the fence, and creates, you know, some of the unsightly things you see. But it takes time to go and manually pick that up. And we have several resources that we do try over the course of a year to take care of the trash and the situation out here. But I bring you back to this slide. There might be something else that our folks are doing that takes a little higher priority, unfortunately, and I say that with a lot of respect. And it's things like this. You know, an average call out is 7 hours, and it's usually a 3-man team, 2 to 3-man team taking care of these call outs for whatever it could be. In fact, we had a little bit of a situation west of Hobbs that took about 36 hours to repair, and state police were out there supporting us, providing us support to protect our workers as people were zipping by and hitting barrels and driving in an unsafe manner when we have some folks that would like to go home to their families too. Next slide. I would be remiss if I did not talk about our unfunded needs. And so I bring up the 128 again. You know, we're in the committee season. The New Mexico State Legislature has committees, usually from summer into the fall as we gear up for the legislative session. And, you know, this is a great time for you to call and reach out to your elected officials to talk about New Mexico 128. We need about $140 million more dollars to make that project whole so we can go and get it built. US 380, Roswell State Line, I've already talked about that. We've got an intersection out there by the airport in Roswell that needs some pretty major investments. It's kind of a dangerous intersection or a higher risk intersection. US 54 coming from El Paso going to Kansas City. It's a primary freight corridor after 285, after US 70, and we have to support US 54 near Duran. It's starting to have some pretty severe issues. And then, of course, anything on New Mexico 18, I would say going from Lovington to Jal and then 8 miles south to the state line, all of that's going to have to be reconstructed and repaired at some point. And so these are things that we have that are in the very near future we're going to need support with that aren't part of, you know, these mega infrastructure projects. Because if you think about it, we haven't seen a design build project in southeastern New Mexico since US 70 was 4-laned. And that was a major $300 million type of investment. We're looking at 455 right now if everything plays out the way we're looking at. I mean, nearly $500 million of investment in Eddy and Lee County over the next 3 to 5 years, and that's significant. A lot of that is state money. That is money coming back to the area after years and years and years of trying to get that wheel as squeaky as possible, Mayor, I guess would be the best way of saying it. And, you know, we're seeing that come back. The state money is coming back. A lot of the tax money is starting to come back. And so, you know, we appreciate the effort that our leaders are doing to raise awareness for our financial needs to make these projects happen, because it's not cheap to build roads. It's not cheap to maintain them. But thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.
Mr. Tim Parker, we all know that these improvements will help save lives here in southeast New Mexico. We're going to have the county manager come up and speak next, but before he does, I want to take an opportunity to go back and thank the city of Carlsbad. Our Carlsbad mayor, Dale Janway, our city manager, John Lowe, and all their staff does a fantastic job. We're here at the River Conference Center, Pecos River Conference Center. We can see the river right out here. A lot of projects going all over town, north end of town, east end when you come in, doing a lot of work with the mediums, putting in pickleball courts and sand volleyball courts. They got statues around this whole area. The landscaping is beautiful. The city's been working really hard. So I want to thank and congratulate John Lowe and Mayor Dale Janway for all their work. Our next guest is County Manager Alan Davis. Now, he's been serving as the Eddy County Manager since September 1st, 2019. But prior to that, he had almost 40 years in various roles in the oil and gas industry. So he knows what he's talking about, and we're so lucky to have him as our new county manager. He's worked in New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, California, and I think he came here from Australia, if I'm right. So please welcome our county manager, Alan Davis.
And I'd like to thank the mayor and the committee for the opportunity to asking the county to come and share what's going on with county roads. I appreciate Mr. Parker and the relationship that Eddy County has with NMDOT. They've been great partners, and they're great to work with. I recognize that the forum's been limited because of the pandemic, and so it's a little unusual, the format, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to share. Let's go to the second slide there, if you would, please. There we go. And I hope you can see these online all right. I tried to keep them concise, but as Danny mentioned, I started in the role last September, and there was also some other leadership changes in the county. And at that time, I sat down with the new Public Works Director, and we talked about what the options and opportunities were, what the needs were. Eddy County is responsible for about 1,250 miles of roads across the county, and many of you who are online have driven on a lot of those roads. Some of them are in okay shape and some of them are not. And so we needed to get our thoughts together and get organized. So we invested in a data acquisition and analysis, and we literally surveyed every road mile, every county road mile in the county, and collected a significant amount of data to help us understand the quality of the roads, the conditions of the roads, and what we might need to do with those roads. And then after we sat down, we were able to analyze that information, and that helped us with the prioritization and then categorization of how these roads were going to be, how we were going to be able to address those. One of the challenges is that most of the citizens in the county, they're in kind of the northern half, the western half. A lot of the severe road conditions are in kind of the southeast portion of the county, and that's where industry is heaviest. Principally the oil and gas industry, and we are big supporters and big proponents of the oil and gas industry, and we want to help ensure that the infrastructure that they need is in place. If you'd go to the next slide, please. These might be a little busy online, but there are 3 graphs there. These are some of the output from the analysis that we were able to do with the data we collected. The graph on the left basically shows the condition. It's a quality index. It's a derivative of the data that we've applied there. And if you can see it online, the red is bad. And then as the colors soften, shows improved road quality. But you can see there's a fair amount of opportunity across the county. The middle graph shows how we've categorized the roads. And I think Mr. Parker mentioned in his comments that what were collectors and feeders have now become primary arteries, and what were secondary and tertiary roads have now become the feeders and collectors for the primary roads. What we've observed is if there's a good road, industry's going to find it and they're going to use it. The challenge with that is when these roads were originally designed and put together, they were designed for rural traffic, agriculture traffic, farm to market kind of traffic. Now they're becoming major thoroughfares for industry, heavy truck traffic, heavy weights. And so it's important for us to understand where that utilization is, how much traffic's rolling across there. And so that the graphic on the right shows, where the caliche roads are, where the paved chip sealed roads are, and where the fixed roads are. If you go to the next slide, please. So the key takeaway for this slide is that during the last 2 quarters, the county's been able to complete several $1 million worth of road projects across the county, which is outstanding in my view. I've heard a lot of comments and feedback that with our systematic approach, we've been able to demonstrate some positive outcomes that members of the community and the citizens of the county can see. They can see the progress. And so I want you to understand that we're going to continue that effort and continue that systematic approach. But this represents a combination of approaches using our partnerships, our contracts, and county personnel to complete the work. Some which ranges from road rebuilds all the way through chip sealing. Chip sealing, you may grouse about it a little bit when you're driving on it, but that really helps improve and stabilize some of the roads. We've taken some roads that were just caliche and we've put a couple of layers of chip seal on them, and it really helps hold those roads with the traffic that we've got. we've done about 80 miles worth of chip seal in the last 2 quarters, and in addition to that, we've had our blades out, and we're working on the Caliche roads, trying to get those back in shape, clean out the cattle guards. So you can see there the list of projects and the amount of money spent so far, and we'll continue that effort as long as we have the funds. Next slide, please. So some of the things that we're working on, you heard Mr. Parker talk about the 31-285 intersection. That is something that the county's working on in partnership with NMDOT. They've been very helpful and very engaged in helping improve that intersection. If any of you have been down there, I realize that the pandemic has slowed some of the traffic volume down and taken some of that traffic out. But if you were ever coming off of Potash Mine Road there, Highway 31, and you were at that intersection at 285, you could back up for several miles. You have the train tracks there, and you have that oblique intersection. And it's a dangerous intersection, and so this will really improve that outcome. We're also working on 2 bypass routes, if you will, to try and take that heavy truck traffic outside of Carlsbad. So we have the southeast loop, which would connect with 62-180 at the George Shoup interchange and go down U.S. Refinery Road and tie into to Highway 31. We're going to straighten that road out, widen it a bit, and improve that. The southwest loop is what we're looking at to tie in at Lee Street and then take that road down south and probably come out south of the airport, again, to try and take that truck traffic out of the city. We expect those projects are in the planning and preparation phase. We expect to begin construction soon, some late this year and others early next year. And then we'll continue to execute the systematic program that we developed with the data we've collected on the remainder of the county roads. Next slide, please. One of the key elements for the county, and we heard some mentions of partnerships. Partnerships are key for the county and completing the road infrastructure. You can see on the slide there that we've listed the cities, Lee County, and certainly NMDOT. But without those kind of partnerships to leverage and stretch the monies we have, we wouldn't be able to accomplish all that we've been able to do. Earlier this month, Permian Strategic Partnership published their report, The Permian Basin, Unlocking the Full Potential. And one of the key points noted was that growth comes at a cost. The cost of infrastructure investments in the Permian is necessary to unlock the full potential of the basin. Quoting from the section regarding Permian infrastructure, it says, the majority of the majority of the Permian Basin infrastructure was built decades ago when the area's population was far smaller than it is today, and the region's oil and natural gas industry had yet to shift from conventional vertical wells to horizontal wells. This dramatic shift in process brought rapid growth and activity. The increased activity quickly outstripped the capacity of existing infrastructure. And many of the citizens and members of industry in the county have witnessed that change. And that's the situation the county finds itself in today. The majority of the impacted roads aren't in the areas where the citizens of the county reside. Those roads are in the areas of high industry activity and rapid development. So partnering on infrastructure is a critical and key element for the future sustainability of that needed core infrastructure. The county needs and would welcome industry support to help continue this success. Next slide, please. So I'd like to recognize our partners inside and outside of the county. It requires a cross-functional, multi-agency and multi-group partnership. And to sustain all this effort, improving our critical roadways and infrastructure, if we don't do that, our opportunity for success will greatly diminish. The state of New Mexico faces significant budget challenges. Funding for the county level road projects from the state is very difficult at best. You heard Mr. Parker talk about funding the major highway projects. County projects are next tier down, and so getting monies for those is really difficult. as Mr. Parker mentioned, Eddy County has a great relationship with District 2 and with Secretary Sandoval, and they've helped us in committing some monies to help improve some of what we call relief routes that would help during the construction of the 285 and 128 highways. But the county will not only need this support of everyone noted on the slide, we'll need other partnerships to support this and make this process possible. So as you're looking at your developments, as you're looking at your opportunities and you think, man, these roads are rough and tough, let's sit down and have a chat, see what options and opportunities we have, where we could partner, where we could maybe stretch things a little bit. I appreciate the opportunity to share this update, and I hope business continues on the pace that it is and slowly inclines as we move through the remainder of the year and into 2021. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Al Davis, our Eddy County manager. And Al, I want to tell you, you're doing a great job. I've heard nothing but great cooperation from the county and the city, something that always hasn't happened in the past. And thanks to Al's experience and tenure in the oil and gas industry, and just as an administrator, you've done a great job. Right now, we'd like to recognize another great community partner. Now, everyone knows Clint around town, and I'm talking about Clint Cohn. He's dedicated to Carlsbad, dedicated to the Chamber of Commerce, the Department of Development, but we want to focus on his personal employee commitment. In fact, I want to read something here that came to us from Travis Combs, and I quote, "I had an idea what needed to be done to clear the line and make it work safe, but I still didn't feel 100% comfortable giving the go-ahead for the work to begin. So I approached Clint about my reservations, and he made it clear to me that I should never hesitate to admit that I didn't know something. He said, the people who can't admit they need help or don't know something are the ones you have to watch out for." Clint is also highly involved in the community, as I said, and we have a proclamation honoring Clint Cohn as an outstanding community partner. I'm going to read that for you right now. We got the mayor up there with Clint, and he's going to present that proclamation to him. Clint Cohn is an outstanding community partner. For his and Sendero's Midstream's commitment to Carlsbad, Clint has gone above and beyond the call of duty through his extensive involvement in both the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce and the Carlsbad Department of Development. He personally helped ensure that safety protocols for the Chamber's Christmas on the Pecos event were high and in place. He has also made a similar impact at Sendero Midstream by actively encouraging employees with any safety reservations to voice them, and always has an open door policy. Clint has been a good friend of the city of Carlsbad who is always willing to help. We appreciate his and Sendero's strong support. Signed, Carlsbad Mayor Dale Janway.
Congratulations.
Thanks, sir. I'd like to thank the mayor for this opportunity. Puts on a great event every year. Glad to get all of us together. It's an honor to be a part of this community. I appreciate the people I work with. We have a good team. We work well together. And it's just the city, the county, along with my employees at Sendero. It's a great team effort. It's an honor to be a part of it. And I appreciate the award, Mayor. And I'd just like to say it's an honor and a privilege, and I appreciate the award. Thank y'all.
Clint, don't get too far off here now. We're moving into our Spirit of the Oil Field selections. This is our second year of doing these awards, and we received twice as many nominations as we did last year. Of course, we have our two outstanding community partners. Clint was one of them. We'll bring the other one up here in a minute. But our judges felt like we needed two different categories, and we're going to talk about our next award winner. I want to read you something about this individual from his nominator. And it says, he leads by example, and he is very deserving of this award. He is committed to safety because he is responsible for ensuring the facility systems are running smoothly and making any necessary changes to optimize throughput and operating efficiency. So if you don't mind, let's go ahead and congratulate and welcome our Spirit of Oilfield nomination winner, Jacob Lujan. Proclamation for you. Jacob Lujan represents the spirit of the oil field for his service to the community and professionalism as a field operator with Sodero Midstream and also a small business owner. Jacob volunteers with the Eddy County DWI program and works hard to educate the public on laws such as providing alcohol to minors. He is a dedicated leader at work and committed to safety. He also owns his own business, Cavan City Customs. Jacob is a dedicated professional who helps ensure that everything runs smoothly. Signed, Carlsbad Mayor Dale Janway.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. I'd just like to thank the community and everybody involved for the award. It's a privilege to be awarded by all of y'all and to represent the spirit of the oil field. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for all your hard work and being a great community partner too. Our next community partner we want to honor is just outstanding. I'm going to read something from Steve Cummings. In quote, when the coronavirus pandemic reached New Mexico and the governor shut down everything, Anthony got word that not only were the schools being closed, where many of our at-risk youth receive their meals, emotional support, and interaction with positive role models, but he found out that the Boys and Girls Club was also having to close. In addition to being closed, the Boys and Girls Club was being closed because of lack of funding, and they were going to have to lay off their staff. Anthony said, no, not on my watch. That's not going to happen. So Anthony made a significant donation to the Boys and Girls Club and found a way for the organization to survive both as an employer and a resource for our children. I'd like to read this proclamation signed by Mayor Janway and myself for Anthony. Anthony Foreman is an outstanding community partner for his and AR Foreman Constructions LLC's commitment to Carlsbad. Anthony has long been one of the most generous business owners in Carlsbad, but he stepped up even more during the COVID-19 pandemic. He developed and sponsored a program that allowed the Boys and Girls Club of Carlsbad to continue to pay its employees and provide essential support to the youth in the community, many of them at-risk children. With his company, he has made safety a top priority as his company by maintaining a dedicated staff of safety specialists. You know, a total list of Anthony's contribution to this community through his support of the Elks Club, Cavern Fest, Carlsbad High School, the COPS program, Brittany's Hope, and many, many other. We'd be here for a while telling you everything that Anthony's done for this community. Anthony Foreman finds a way to give back every single day, and this community is blessed to have him as a resident. AR Foreman Construction LLC is an outstanding community partner, signed by Carlsbad Mayor Dale Janway.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Very proud to be a part of this community, and I'll continue to do whatever I can to help you and the community out. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Anthony. What a great job you and your company do. Thank you so much. We're now proud to honor Michael Heron, who is an account rep for the Marathon branch of DNOW. I'm not sure what that stands for, but Michael was nominated by Andrea Heron, who writes, quote, "He is a Marine Corps Iraqi war veteran and maintains that pride and leadership in all that he does, including his daily position, always going above and beyond in all measures. So thank you for your service, sir, both now and as a veteran. Let's go ahead and read your proclamation." Michael Heron represents the spirit of the oil field. For his service to the community and professionalism as an account representative, the Marathon branch. Michael is a Marine Corps Iraqi war veteran who maintains a level of pride in everything he does. On July 3rd, he delivered brisket and cards of appreciation to area's first responders to show how much he values their professionalism. He is lauded for always putting others above himself and for keeping his crew's morale elevated. Michael is a dedicated leader at work who represents by everyone, who's respected by everyone that he's met both inside and outside the shop. Signed by Carlsbad Mayor Dale Janway.
I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank my wife and my boss, Robin, who's here with me, and the company for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for all your help and your commitment. We love giving the Spirit of Oilfield Awards. There's probably a lot of folks that are out there are even deserving, but we only have a few awards, and the ones we just did are some of the best. Thank you. And we want to wrap this up and thank everybody online for joining us, everybody that came here today in person. Thank you. And we really look forward to being in person, hopefully, next year at our 2021 summit. So in the meantime, thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the oil and gas companies. Thank you, the city of Carlsbad, Eddy County, Red Rocket, and everybody that helped produce this show today. And again, thank you for tuning in. I think the event was educational and a good way to keep up with what's going on in Carlsbad. So thank you very much. God bless you, and stay safe.
This is a Red Rocket broadcast.